Welcome to another episode of Raw Chatter. I am your host speaking, Vicky Midwood, and I am not solo today. Hurrah! I have a guest with me, and this is one hell of a guest with an incredible story to share. Now, Vishrant and I were actually introduced by somebody else who you've already heard on the podcast. And I have to tell you that this could be an episode which would last for hours. But I'm not going to allow that to happen. We are going to go into the meat of the story of reinvention and just how you can completely change your philosophy, your ideology around life and how you do business. So, Vishrant, thank you for joining me. Please tell people what it is that you do now and what actually started you off on that journey.
Okay. So what I do now is I hold what's called satsang, which means association with truth. And I'm a Buddhist teacher, and I've been teaching for 27 years.
Amazing. But that's not how you started out your working life, is it? You were actually in tech.
I was actually started as a mechanic.
Right.
I did an apprenticeship in mechanics on Ford cars, which I love, and
Right.
I got fired from that job and got a job selling batteries to service stations and car yards. And on my way around in my ute, which had been supplied, I got introduced to a guy who owned a lot of car yards, and his name was John Hughes. And John said to me, "Young man, I'll train you how to sell, and I'll give you a car to drive around in for free each day, and I'll give you $250 a week, plus I'll give you 25% of everything you sell." And I said, "John, sign me up." And John taught me. He actually was my first business mentor, and he taught me how to be in business. He taught me how to sell, and he taught me how to be in business. And
Amazing.
from that, I got...
I'm just going to jump in there. So what age were you when this happened?
Probably about 20.
Right. So you seized the opportunity to work with this guy and to learn from him quite early on in your career.
I did. And he wasn't the only one. There were other businessmen around who I made friends with, and I lost a lot of games of pool against them. But I recognized them as being successful, and I got them to teach me how to be a successful businessman, and they did.
Brilliant. My guess is that people listening to this, I think we hear this, don't we? And we read this on so many podcasts and in newsletters and articles. Surround yourself with people who have got what you want or who are already where you are, and get yourself into those environments where you can make the right connections. And it sounds like you just did that naturally.
Exactly. And I got involved in group therapy with an organization called Focal that run a group called the Greatness in You Seminar, which was a 4-day live-in course where they take you apart and show you how you're operating and then put you back together. And that was wonderful for me. It was amazing. I became quite a groupie. After my next job, I went into publishing because I got a job. I was unemployed for a little while, and my mum said, "You're not going to sit around home and be unemployed." So she got a friend of hers, and she got me a job with him, and he was a publisher, and he was looking for salesmen to sell advertising space and in his magazines and his newspapers. And I got a job with him. And that was very interesting because I did very well with him, and he promised me that in 6 months' time, he was going to give me the manager's job because I was so good at what I did.
Incredible.
Anyway, come 6 months, he gives the job to his brother-in-law. And I went, "No, this isn't right." So I quit, and I started my own publishing company in opposition to him.
Wow.
And
Brilliant.
because I had so many mentors, I was able to do that successfully. I started with absolutely no money whatsoever. Within 4 years, I'd retired.
Incredible. So you started out as a mechanic. You basically had an incredible mentor who taught you how to sell anything and business, set up your own business, basically blew your competitor out of the water, and then said, right, what's next?
Yeah, within a year of starting my publishing company, I had 30 salesmen working for me full time, and 5 clerical staff. And I was very young. I was probably about 23 or 24 years old.
Wow,
and within 4 years, I retired when I was 28. So within 4 years, I'd made enough, and I was successful enough to not have to work anymore.
That's a heck of a thing, because there's so many people now looking at influencers and people in today's kind of world of celebrity who have done a similar kind of thing. But you were doing this a long time ago.
I was. But what happened to me is, and I had an adventure. I was a boatie. I loved going out diving, and I liked diving off the coast of West Australia because there was so many fish to hunt, crayfish in particular. And I was on my way out to actually meet a yacht, and I was in a runabout, a small runabout, and I was going 35 miles out to sea in this runabout to meet this ship, and we were going diving. And on the way out, I must have hit a bottle or something in the water, and it went through the hull, and the boat sunk. And I was in the water with the boat at gunwale level water, in other words, almost sinking. And I was in the water for 18 hours because a cyclone had come in, which I hadn't checked the weather. And I'm in the water, and I'm with a woman, and she's in the water as well. And I know we're going to die because we're being circled by sharks. And I know we're going to die. I looked across at her, and I felt so much regret that I'd cost her life.
Well, I mean, help people to understand, just so that people can kind of connect, because this is such a powerful picture that I'm creating in my head of you being in the water. This cyclone is there. There's another person with you. It's not just you on your own. And you are kind of knowing that this is probably going to be it. What sensations are you feeling in your body? Are you even aware of your body at this point? Or are you just in your head thinking thoughts and having like emotional responses? What's actually going on?
I had hypothermia because I'd been in the water for 18 hours and it was cold water. So I had hypothermia. The woman I was with also had hypothermia, but I was in radio contact with a ship in the area.
Wow.
And because I had radio contact, I could lead them to where I was eventually. It took them a long time to find us. It was in the middle of the night. It was 2 o'clock in the morning when they actually found us. Oh my God,
it wasn't even daylight. Jeez.
And there was 2 sharks circling the position we were at. They were big hammerhead sharks. And I looked across at this woman in the water, and I thought, you're going to die. I'm going to die. I'm so sorry I've cost you your life.
Wow.
And in that moment, I was filled with this amazing love. It was like all of a sudden I just felt love everywhere. And I thought, I've never experienced this before. This is so beautiful. Anyway, we did get rescued. We got rescued at 2 a.m. by a boat called the BP Endeavour, which was actually a ship. Now, the BP Endeavour wouldn't allow me to come aboard. They wouldn't come and rescue us. And so I actually had to ask them to drop their nets, and I started the motor in this boat. And even though it was full of water, I was able to push the boat towards the ship. And when the boat hit the ship, there were sailors who'd come down the nets who could grab my partner and take her on board the ship. And
So why couldn't you board the ship?
well, I was at the steering wheel. By the time I left the steering wheel, my boat had drifted something like 40 or 50 meters away from the ship because the swells were huge.
Wow.
Anyway, I dived in the water, swam through the sharks, and got to the net and was able to climb up the net with the support of sailors from the ship and be rescued. And that was the story of our rescue, which was miraculous in itself.
Yeah. But this sensation of love that you explained, it sounded like it almost gave you a sense of calm, and then you were just taking action and making sure that she was safe first.
Yeah. Brilliant. That's exactly right. Wow. I felt so much regret that I'd cost her life, and I didn't think she was going to survive. I didn't think I was going to survive.
So you get rescued, and wow, my goodness, and then this is where it gets super, super interesting.
Well, I get back to Perth, and I join a retreat in Italy with a guy called Paul Lowe, and I'm in this retreat for 6 months. And during the 6 months, I started to feel that I had armor on. And the armor that I had on, it became clear to me it was attached to my business. As a businessman, I'd armored myself. I'd become super protective. And I tried to take the armor off, and I was successful at taking it off. But as soon as I turned around, it was back on again.
Right.
And so I was highly motivated to actually take the armor off because I wanted to find that love again. And I realized that the reason I felt it in the first place is because I was wide open. And with the armor on, I wasn't open enough to experience it.
Yeah. Incredible.
So I decided to take the armor off, and that meant getting rid of my business.
Right.
So rather than sell my business, I went and gave it to my staff. One day I just walked in and I gave everyone who worked for me my business. It was a multi-million-dollar company, and I just walked away. I walked away with nothing except the debts.
Right. Oh, so you didn't give them that, thank goodness.
No, I actually gave the company to them, lock, stock, and barrel, including 14 offices full of furniture. Wow. And I took my shoes off and I started walking around Australia looking for my heart, because I realized without heart, even though I'd become rather wealthy in the material world, I was actually bankrupt because I didn't have heart. I'd become a shark.
And was it on the retreat that you were able to kind of make these connections and these discoveries? Is it because you gave yourself that space to just be in an environment where you had the time to actually turn into yourself and realize what was going on?
That's exactly right. It was on retreat that I was able to see what I was really up to.
Yeah. And then you came out of the retreat and you took action, and then you started going literally walkabout it down in Australia. And this is, we all have pictures, don't we, of like the person in the kind of the cut off trousers and the t-shirt, and I can just envision you with your bare feet.
I had the cut off trousers, I had the t-shirt, and I wasn't wearing anything on my feet. My feet were bare.
No sandals,
so I ended up with very, very thick soles of my feet after 4 years of walking around Australia.
4 years. Wow.
4 years. Incredible. But during that 4 years, I discovered my heart, and I started living from it. And I started living from love as a way of life. And because I wanted to continue making money, I went back to university and I trained as a naturopath and psychotherapist at the same time, so I could have some tools to help people with.
Amazing.
And then I went to work and I helped people as a naturopath, and I helped people with their health, and I helped people as a psychotherapist with their mental problems.
So help us to understand, Vishrant, when you were in Australia for these 4 years, were you literally kind of going from town to town? Were you joining groups of people? How were you discovering your heart? What steps were you taking?
I realized that if I was going to pursue heart, I need to follow what it would be like to pursue heart, which meant for me to be in service of other human beings.
Right. Yeah.
You could be in service to the planet. You could be in service to trees or animals. But I like humans. So I went into service of humans. And during that time, in the beginning, I just mowed lawns,
Right.
washed dishes, washed cars, just gave people massages for free.
Right. Amazing.
I ran groups on how to massage people for free. I didn't charge because I just wanted to give. I realized that the way of the heart is to give.
Right. Amazing.
Instead of being a taker.
Right. And so you give your business away, you literally, you went on your walkabout, you discover what you want to do, you go and learn. I mean, to be a naturopath, it's quite a lot of study, isn't it? And then when you add on doing psychotherapy as well. I mean, back in the day, obviously, we're not talking about you having Google or computers. It was all books and libraries and that kind of stuff, I'm assuming.
It was also in person with groups. Like the psychotherapy was taught to me in a group environment where we did psychotherapy on each other.
Brilliant. Practical.
And so it was hands-on.
Perfect. Really, really good. And so with that knowledge, you then decided?
Well, I decided to have a life that was in service to human beings. And I used those trades to build a client base, which I did. And also during that period of time, I got married and I had a couple of children and I became a daddy and I took care of my kids and I took care of my wife and I took care of my clients, all the way of the heart. Everything was the way of the heart because it was about giving instead of being a taker.
Yeah. And just from a time frame point of view, you're still in your early 30s at this point, early to mid 30s?
Yeah. 33, I think.
Right.
Or 34.
Nice. And you live in a beautiful part of Australia, don't you? And you have your centre now is quite incredible.
The centre I have now is in the hills of Perth. It's in a place called Roystone, and it's about 12.5 acres of land with 2 houses and granny flats and lots of cabins on it. And it's beautiful. It's in the middle of the bush, in what you'd call the hills here.
Wow. So how did you manage to kind of work serving your clients and running your business with obviously being a parent? Because so many people are in that. You've got a partner, you've got your wife to look after, you've got your business, you've got your clients, and then you've got kids. And what you're talking about is a lot of being in service, it's a lot of giving. So what did you do to fill your own cup up and to make sure that you had what was required of you whilst taking care of all of these other people? What did you do to look after yourself?
I bought real estate.
I did not expect that as an answer.
and it went up and it went up and it went up and it went up.
Right.
And that's how I made money. I made enough money during the week working as a naturopath and psychotherapist to pay for all the family, to pay for the rentals, to pay the food, whatever, But how I really made money was to buy the 2 properties I live on now. I borrowed money and bought real estate, sold real estate, borrowed more money, because that was something I was good at, real estate.
Right. And that, I'm assuming, lit you up. You enjoyed that, the process of doing it and finding the right properties and seeking with your heart. What kind of spoke to you?
No, what I really enjoyed was helping people.
Right. And you still do.
I still do. I mean, real estate was just a byproduct. It wasn't something I really enjoyed doing. It was just, if you're going to make money, I just know how to make it, and you make it real estate or you work hard. I was working hard and I was buying real estate.
So you do both.
I had to borrow the money to buy the real estate. So I was very, that was a very interesting time because I had to borrow money off friends to get deposits together to buy real estate and then pay back the deposits. It was a trip, but it was possible. It was possible. Anything the mind of man can conceive and believe, he can achieve or she can achieve.
Love it. And what I'm interested in is while you were doing that, because you sound like through the process of you having those 4 years to discover yourself and the mentoring that you'd got in business and your proof that you were good at it because you were successful enough to retire very, very young. Did you ever kind of question your ability to, pay back the money or to be able to come up with the goods? Or were you always certain that whatever happened, you would be able to find a way?
I had confidence in myself. I trusted myself and I liked myself because I got into self-acceptance at a very young age.
Right.
And when you self-accept, you don't have low self-worth. And I didn't have low self-worth. I was very confident in my ability to do whatever I wanted to do, and I did.
Do you think that that is something that you had to learn? Or do you think that there was a part of you that kind of already had a degree of self-acceptance anyway?
No, I had to do it because when I went to school, I had ADHD. And I got knocked around a fair bit in school because every report card said if I could concentrate a little bit more, I would get better marks. But, like I had teachers come into class and grab my hands to see if I'd been dragging my knuckles on the ground, know?
Wow.
Really. Yeah. And so I developed a fair bit of wounding around being less than, being not good enough. And that's when I started to develop this idea in my mind that the world is not going to accept me. So I have to accept me. And that's where self-acceptance began for me. I started to accept myself as I was rather than rely on the acceptance of other human beings.
Incredible. That's such a powerful message, I think, for people to hear, especially people who can really relate to what you've said of being schooled in a certain era where, teachers were not exactly pleasant to kids and it was allowed for them to basically do whatever they liked in the name of discipline.
Violence. I experienced a great deal of violence at the hands of the Roman Catholic Church.
Right. And I'm sure there'll be so many people listening who will absolutely know what you're talking about. But the very fact that you made such a wise decision that you had to accept yourself as you were, because if society wasn't going to, you needed to. That's really powerful.
It is. I became my own best friend, and it was probably the best thing I ever did in my life, to become my own best friend and not guilt trip myself every time I got something wrong. I made it okay for me to fail, even though I tried not to. Brilliant. And because I was okay with myself as a failure, I could relax. Yeah. If I was trying to be perfect, I could never relax.
Right. And then the pressure would be so much that you'd probably make more mistakes and get more failures and reinforce the negative cycle. Yeah. Incredible.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then the training that you then did in your therapy with your own understanding of the importance of self-acceptance, I'm guessing that a lot of the therapy that you now do is very much around helping people along those lines, as well as understanding just how they work as a human.
Exactly. I help people raise their consciousness levels because if you raise your consciousness levels high enough, you stop suffering. Because if your consciousness levels are high enough, you never fall into victim-orientated thinking because you realize that you create your own reality with the way you think. And the last thing you want to do is be negative about you, be a victim of anything, be blaming anything. You take full responsibility for yourself. And so Before I did what I'm doing now, which was 27 years ago, I used to run men's groups, teaching men how to be men, because so many men are just little boys in old bodies.
It's so well said. And I think there is such a talking point in social media now about how young boys really don't know how to become men, and men are now so confused as to where are they and what actually now is their role in society. And we think that this is a new phenomenon, but actually, if you were doing this over 27 years ago, it's not, is it?
No, it's
No.
definitely not. I was running men's groups for years, and it was all about teaching men how to be men. And one of the main things is getting men to take responsibility for themselves and not blaming the world or their partner for how they are. In other words,
Which,
not turning themselves into victims of anything, because it's a choice. And
yeah,
if you turn yourself into a victim, victims by definition are helpless. They're lost.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I learned this lesson when I was 19 years old. It was one of the lessons I learned from my mentors. I read a book called The Handbook to Higher Consciousness by a guy called Ken Keyes. And that book was all about how not to be a victim. And if you did turn yourself into a victim, what would be the result of that?
Wow.
Uh,
And this was a mentor that suggested you read it?
yes.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
And this is
A
this
guy
is the
called
power.
Colin Hayes.
This is where I think it's so important for people listening, because sometimes it's really easy to listen to podcasts and it's easy to listen to somebody's story and not be reminded of what were the key things. Because I think we're very fortunate that we have got exposure now to so many more podcasts and more people's stories, but we can almost miss the important parts of what are being said. You were working with a mentor, but you were listening to what was being suggested and you took action. You didn't question it. You didn't go, no, I'm not going to read that. I haven't got time. You just did what you were recommended to do because you trusted them, because they knew more than you and had already got what it is that you wanted, and you knew that they had the skill set and the knowledge to be able to get you there as well. And I think it's so important for people to listen, because I think so much now people feel that they have to do this stuff on their own, or they now can use AI to help them instead of doing what you did so many years ago, creating groups. Because ultimately for humans, it's all about feeling a part of, isn't it? It's about connecting, but it's also
Yes.
about understanding who are we and where do we fit in with different groups in different areas of our lives. Where do we fit in work? Where do we fit in with our families? Where do we and how do we actually feel about ourselves? And this is the stuff that you were able to discover through your mentoring, and then obviously through your own life experiences as well. So when you first started to do the men's groups, I'm intrigued. Were people kind of really keen to come and join you, or was it a bit of a slog trying to get people to come in?
Well, it began with some of the people who were working with me when I was working as a naturopath, and some of the people who were working with me when I was working as a psychotherapist. And they told their friends, and this whole thing took off as a result of the results I was getting, because
Right.
I'd psychodrama everything. I don't know if you know what psychodrama is, but it's where you
Yes,
get
but
people to
I
play
do. But for
roles.
people, yeah, I think for people who are listening, it's probably one of the least scary ways of experiencing psychotherapy, isn't it? Because it almost feels like it's fun.
It's fun,
Yeah,
absolutely. You get someone says they got a problem, they get to pick someone to be their mum, their dad, whoever else was in the story, and you get them to play the parts out. And then you stand back and you watch the parts playing back out.
yeah,
And I psychodramaed these groups for 10 weeks, and the men loved it, and they
yeah.
kept coming back. They kept having dinners, you know.
Fantastic. So the men's groups grew, and again, it's word of mouth, it's connections, and this is what it keeps coming back to, isn't it? And so after the
Mm.
men's groups, then where did you go?
What happened was I I got involved in spirituality in a big way because Advaita Vedanta teachers came to Perth, and I had given up on any enlightenment because I didn't think it was possible. I'd chosen the way of life of the heart as a purpose for life, because I couldn't find meaning and purpose in life. So I chose the way of the heart, and I was living the way of the heart. I was helping people.
Yeah.
But then these Advaita Vedanta teachers came to Perth, and I didn't have much faith in them. But I went along to a meeting, and the guy walked in the room, and all of a sudden I lit up.
Wow.
Just his energy field lit me up.
Yeah.
And within a year of that, and me attending a lot of other of these meetings called satsangs, Vishrant, the I, disappeared, and I find myself as the universe most of the time.
Amazing.
And so I learned, it took me 6 months to learn how to be human again after awakening, because
Wow.
I couldn't talk. I just stared into space and didn't blink.
Wow.
Because I was blissed out to the max with profound contentment for no reason. And I've been profoundly content for no reason now for 27 years. And my love affair is to help people find the same place, to raise their consciousness levels so they can be free.
Amazing.
That's what
and
I do.
So for you now, I'm guessing by the time you found, or these people found you, and you embraced what they were sharing, were the boys grown up by your family? Were they grown up by this point, or were they still quite young? How many years are we talking?
In the beginning, when I woke up, they were 3 or 4 years old,
Right, so
and they stayed with my wife, and I stayed together for 20 years, and that worked reasonably well. We're still good friends, but we're not together anymore.
Right.
But my children, I'm in contact with them almost every day, because I love them to bits.
Fabulous.
But my family is my spiritual family. They're the people who are interested in getting free, the people who are interested in truth. They're my family. And I'm with them every day.
Right. Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I'm in a room with 2 of them right now, 2 of my family. And I love them to bits. I can't help it.
So
and I'm trying to help them.
This is now not just your work, is it? This is Vishrant. This is who you are. This is how you live. This is 24/7, 365 days of the year. And you now actually do run retreats at this incredible property, don't you?
I do. I run retreats, but most of it's online now. People can join online. And so I have a certain number of people on the properties, which I have at the moment, but anyone can join online, because it's people can feel what's happening online, and I deal with people online, and it's brilliant. In my day, you had to go and sit with the person. Nowadays you can come online.
Yeah, incredible. So you can reach many more people and help even more people much more easily by spending the same amount of time, because you're not having to travel and set stuff up, which is phenomenal. So where do people find you then online? Is just a website? Are you in a special forum? Where do people go?
Vishrant, VISHRANT .org. And
right.
I got something like 2,000 videos out there on YouTube. I had something like 4 million views last month.
Amazing. We will put obviously all of your links in the description and in the show notes. But tell me, who do you find are the people who get drawn to you and what you are doing?
All sorts. They have an interest in truth. They have an interest in getting free. They have an interest in stopping suffering, and they find me.
Right. Excellent.
They just find me, and they come and say hello, and I'll talk to them. I run 7 meetings a week, and each meeting is about an hour to an hour and a half. And I talk to people, and I talk to people, and I talk to people. I love people. And if they present themselves to me, possibly I'll see what's in their way and I'll tell them.
Right. Incredible. And so when you're doing these meetings online, you're not asking anything of anybody except just to listen to what you're saying and be open to being curious and to receive. Is that correct?
Yeah, there's no commitment required. They just
Right.
it's there.
Just
And
then.
they're usually curious, so they're asking me questions, and I'll
Yeah.
answer the questions if I can. I just love people. It's
Yeah,
like I'm already
sure.
very in love with you, Vicky. So there we go.
So do you still practice your homeopathy as well? Has that just become a part of your lifestyle too?
People still ask me questions about health, and I will answer them. But
Right.
my main thrust is how to stop people from suffering,
Yeah.
and whatever I need to do to tell them about that. Because unfortunately, most human beings suffer a lot, mostly because they don't know how to stop suffering. And
Right.
I do know how to stop suffering, so I teach people how to stop suffering. And it
Incredible.
involves raising your consciousness levels, because people with higher consciousness levels don't suffer.
No, they don't. And I love the way that you've helped people to actually understand what that means and what the outcome is. So I'm hoping that they're going to be curious enough to go join you on a meeting. What I want to finish off with is, what do you feel is the message that you would like people to leave this episode with?
If you want to have a happy life, accept life as it is, accept everything that's happening in your life, and learn to let things go. If you can let things go and you can accept life as it is, you can be happy. If you resist life and not accept, you will suffer. If you won't refuse to let things go, you will suffer. Your choice. You're in charge of your reality. That's it.
Brilliant. I love that message. And especially that last sentence, because so many people, I think, need to hear that. You are in charge of your reality, because so many
Absolutely.
people don't get that. They believe that life happens to them, or it's the environment, and it's society, and it's the government, and it's my family, and it's whoever. But what you've just said there so succinctly is that no, you are in charge of your reality.
Absolutely.
Love it. That's a brilliant message to end on, Vishrant. Thank you so much. I feel joy in my heart when I talk to you. I don't know if the listener, and I hope you are watching this on YouTube, folks, because if you're not, I highly suggest you do. There is an energy that is coming through the screen from Vishrant, and I'm sure you've been told this before, but I can absolutely feel it. And there's a part of me that is feeling ridiculously emotional. I can feel the tears in my eyes. So this has just been such a really fantastic and special experience for me. So I really want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. It's been an absolute joy.
You are so welcome, Vicky. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. And guys, I'm going to leave you with this, as I always do. If you haven't yet liked or subscribed, then why not do it? If you think that this episode is going to be useful to a friend, please share it with them, pass it on. And if there is anything in here that you would like to comment on, then we welcome all comments and we do read them all. And as I always say to you, we only have one life, as far as we know, and one body. So please look after it, because it is looking after you. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Thank you.